Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto had more than one family? Warm Bonds and Dangerous Love Part 1. Love divided between loyalty, danger, and destiny itself. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. The Anbu. However, there was only one place that could inspire such fear from otherwise fearless people. A place where masters of their arts and styles have gathered to further and better themselves. A place where the masters can only be described as superhuman, true-to-life fighting machines. A place called Ryazanpaku. Sarutobi pinched the bridge of his nose in an attempt to ward off an impending headache. Yes, now go, he ordered in annoyance. With Anbu Ushi had just now arrived at the Ryazanpaku compound, cautiously entering. He walked around in an almost tiptoe fashion as he looked around for the person he was sent to get. After a few minutes, he began to relax. This isn't so bad, he muttered to himself as he began to look around the compound in a much more casual manner until a crashing noise grabbed his attention. As he listened more closely, the crashing was getting closer and closer. Just when he was about to go look for the noise, a training post went screaming past his face at near terminal velocity, followed by a shout that sounded a lot like, "Appa." Rushing toward him, a colossal bronze-skinned man was speeding toward him, smashing everything in sight with his bare hands and feet. Ushi stood stock still, his eyes screwed tightly shut. "If I don't see it, it isn't real," he repeated over and over again like a mantra. Suddenly, he felt himself jerked out of the giant's path of destruction. He chanced opening an eye to see a massive old man holding him by the back of his Anbu armor like a kitten by the scruff. "Oh, whatever could bring an Anbu to our little compound?" he asked in amused curiosity. Ushi forgot himself for a moment, but recomposed himself to deliver the message he was sent to deliver. "Ah, Furinji-sama. Hokage-sama said that he had something important to tell you, that it is time." Hayato's face grew grim as he took in what the message meant. "I see," he replied, turning to the house portion of the compound. "Mew, if you would be so kind as to accompany me to old Saru's office. I believe that you must know about this as well," the old man said aloud. A girl with long wavy blonde hair who looked to be around 16 years old poked her head out of the house. "Oh, okay, Jii-san," she replied. The grim look on her grandfather's face had her worried. "Apachai, calm down for a moment," Hayato called out to the bronze giant, now called Apachai. Apachai stopped in place. "Appa," he wondered as he walked over to the old man. "Apachai-kun, I need you to watch over the house until Akisame and the rest return. When they do, tell Shiger I need to speak with her about something very important." Hayato told Apachai with a serious look on his face. Apachai knew that look and decided that it must be very important. "Hi, Apachai will tell Shiger," he replied solemnly. Before the Anbu could perform the shunshin to teleport away from these crazy people, Hayato grabbed him, flung him over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, and took off like a shot toward Hokage Tower. Hokage Tower. After a very brief, but very wild ride, the Ryazanpaku elder arrived inside of Sarutobi's office and knelt down, allowing Mew to jump off of his back and letting the dazed Anbu slump to the ground in a heap. "You know Saru, your Anbu are getting a bit soft if they cannot handle a simple piggyback ride," the elder teased. Sarutobi grinned at the light-hearted barb from his old friend. "It seems that way," he admitted before turning his attention to Mew. "This lovely young lady must little Mew-chan. I haven't seen you in over 12 years," he added as he greeted the young woman. Hayato's face suddenly turned serious. "Is he here yet? I would like to see how the boy has grown." "Relax, Hayato. He will be here soon as I've sent an Anbu out to go find him," the old Hokage assured his old friend. "Tell me, how has his life been so far? I assume that either Jiraiya-kun or Tsunade-chan took him in. They are the godparents, after all," the old martial artist reasoned. The reaction that he got from his old friend was less than comforting. His saddened and distraught visage made both of the Furinjis very worried. "Ji-san, there's something wrong, isn't there?" Mew asked in a quavering tone. "It seems that way, and I'm going to find out why," Hayato told her calmly as he leveled a piercing stare on Sarutobi. Hayato knew of a couple people who would be very angry if something happened to the boy in question. Kosuke Shiger was known far and wide as a mistress of all weapons, a title inherited from her sensei, Uzumaki Kushina, who herself was known as the war goddess. When she was very young, the red-haired kunoichi found her on the streets of Takumagakure, starving and suffering. The woman took pity on the child and took her home to live with her. From there, the woman introduced her to the shinobi ways and found that she was just like her, a natural weapons prodigy. Shigure absorbed the Kushina's skills like a sponge over the next few years, growing in skill and strength, as well as beauty as the years passed. Once Kushina married Namikaze Minato, she had a full family and soon had a baby brother on the way. Her life couldn't have been better. However, their happiness wasn't meant to last. On October 10, Kushina went into labor while her Minato left to fight a demon that had attacked the village, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. She had been sent to a shelter to hide away and be safe by Minato, but she wanted to help him fight and see her baby brother born. Sadly, by the time she got out to the shelter, the fighting was over. She was told that he died in the fighting while her mother figure died in childbirth, along with her baby brother. Shigure went mad with grief over losing them all in one night, but eventually shed her grief and adopted a cold and uncaring persona, a stark contrast to the girl she had been before the attack. She rose through the shinobi ranks until she became an Anbu captain at the age of 16. Retiring to the confines of Ryazanpaku only a year ago at the age of 24. Shigure wasn't the only one lied to that night by the council and Sarutobi. The leaders of the Hyuga and the Lee clans, Hyuga Hiyashi and Lee Tenman, were both old friends of the Minato and Kushina, and had gone as far as to engage their unborn son to their daughters, Lee Reichi and Hyuga Hinata, as a way of binding their families together into the next generation. The two loyal Sanin, Jiraiya and Tsunade, had both left the village with clenched fists over the fate of their godchild. Jiraiya knew that Naruto was still alive and tried to provide for him financially since he couldn't be there physically, but the council only lined their pockets with almost all of the stipend money, leaving little to none for the boy. Tsunade had been told by Sarutobi that Naruto had died along with the young woman she almost saw as her daughter. She left the village that night without so much as a backwards glance, vowing to never return. The village civilian council, as well as the Sandame's two teammates and elders and the Uchiha clan, had crushed many hopes and dreams when they announced that the Kyuubi had murdered the son of the Yondaime along with his father. Their reason for this was because they were both jealous and threatened by Minato's charisma and the Uchiha by his strength and uncopyable jutsu, not to mention the fact that he, along with his sensei, developed an anti-Sharingan seal in secret. He, Kushina, Tsunade, and Jiraiya all wore these seals to prevent Fugaku, the Uchiha clan head and bitter rival of Minato all through their careers, from copying their hard work. Minato had gotten numerous complaints that the Uchiha had been stealing the jutsu and styles from all over the village, with Fugaku spearheading the offenses. Fugaku had always been very haughty and arrogant, never fully accepting Minato's authority as Hokage and constantly challenged it and calling his skills into question. Minato was always very forgiving, but Fugaku had finally stretched his patience too far. On October the 10th, he was planning on revoking the Uchiha clan's privileges and kicking them off of the council for implied treason, and to dissolve the civilian council for giving orders to his ninja and authorizing missions without his approval when the Kyuubi attacked the village. In the aftermath, a frazzled Fugaku pried a crying Naruto from his deceased father's embrace. Seeing an opportunity to grasp power for himself, he proclaimed him to be the demon reborn, but when he tried to assert his claim on the office of Hokage, old Sarutobi had taken the reins once again and took Naruto from his grasp. The council countered by whipping the populace into a murderous frenzy, bent on avenging the death of their beloved Yondaime and his deceased son at the hands of the Kyuubi, who was now reborn inside of a baby boy, as well as making sure none of Minato's friends could come to the boy's rescue. They managed to get rid of Tsunade and Jiraiya, and told the girl that he and Kushina had taken in that the boy was dead. Sarutobi slammed headlong into damage control in an attempt to stem the damage that had already been done by protecting him as best he could, but many of his effort had been in vain, undermined by some of his own shinobi and council. He couldn't even come clean with Naruto's true heritage without some nasty repercussions, like the council actually killing the boy to keep their betrayal a secret. However, now that Naruto was older enough to protect himself somewhat and with the training that Ryazanpaku could provide, the council would no longer be a threat. He had hoped that Kakashi would be able to protect and train the boy, but the copy nin had turned out to be a massive disappointment. Hayato listened to the entire tale and grew angrier with the council and the village with each passing minute, with Mew nearly in tears as they heard the finer details of the boy's life. When the tale wound down, he bowed his head in shame. He could have taken the boy in, but he too had thought the boy lost. Minato, my nephew. I am so sorry. I will atone for letting you down so badly by taking in your son as I should have long ago. He murmured as he turned to Sarutobi once again. I will inform the Hyuga and Lee clans of the boy's survival and see what they intend to do about the betrothal contracts. Until then, I will take over the boy's training. Kakashi has proven to be a liability. If he has a problem with this, he may deal directly with myself and the other masters. Hayato stated with an air of authority, as expected of the man who was originally chosen for the position of Sandaime Hokage, but declined it. Sarutobi only nodded, knowing that Hayato had every right to be upset. Before he could say anything, a figure appeared in the window. Sensei. I will still teach the boy everything that I taught his father. He was like a son to me, so I felt that what I have to teach is his birthright. The figure stated, coming into the light to reveal none other than Jiraiya. Ah, Jiraiya-kun. Good to see you, my boy. Hayato greeted. Hayato knew that his absence was not of his own doing, and if he had the choice, Jiraiya would have taken Naruto and raised him himself. Furinji-sama. It's been a long time. The white-haired sage greeted, until he saw Mew. Well, hello, pretty young lady. He all but shouted in glee until a glare from Hayato told him that it wasn't a good idea. What brings you here, Jiraiya? Sarutobi asked him to clear the air. My informants have told me that Orochimaru and Suna will attack during these exams and that my godson is in the finals. I heard what that bastard Hatake did to Naruto's training and I'll deal with him personally. That brat never did understand that it wasn't always all about him, no matter how Minato tried getting through to him. Jiraiya growled. Back with Naruto. Naruto was arguing with Ebisu, who had come to lecture Naruto on the basics of etiquette as per Kakashi's instructions. Just get out of my way. I need to go train and manners won't help me. What am I gonna do? Politely ask Neji to not kill me. He asked incredulously. Manners are a cornerstone for every shinobi. A shortcut to becoming a good, upstanding ninja of Konoha. Since you were only an orphan, Kakashi saw fit to have me instruct you in etiquette for the month until the finals. He wants you to at least lose with grace. Ebisu told him in a smug tone. Naruto seethed at what this arrogant was lording over him. This was rubbing his orphan status in his face, and so was Kakashi. He was about to cold the jerk off until and Anbu appeared before them. Neiko Nisan, what's up? Does the old man need to see me? Naruto asked her. He remembered this Anbu. She was always nice to him and saved him a couple of times when he was small, not to mention she taught him about stealth, something that all of Konoha cursed due to the fact that he could pull off pranks without getting caught now. Hi, come with me please, she told him softly until Ebisu stopped them roughly. Hold on there, Kakashi said. He began to yell until she had her ninjutsu at his throat in half a heartbeat. I already know what you two are trying to do and it sickens me. If I weren't Anbu, I'd train and look after the boy myself. Now go away and tell Kakashi this, should he try to sabotage his growth again, I will make him pay. She hissed while resheathing her blade and turning to Naruto. Come, Naruto-kun. I'll take you to the Hokage's office. Neiko told Naruto, putting a hand on his shoulder as she teleported them to the Hokage's office. Back to the Hokage's office. Again. Just as Jiraiya was finished going over what he knew of the impending invasion of the village, there was a knocking at the door. Hokage-sama, I have brought Naruto-kun as request. A voice called out from the other side of the door. Come in, Sarutobi ordered. The door opened to reveal a cat-masked Anbu standing next to a blonde-haired boy with a look of defeat and despair on his face. Oi, Gigi. What's up? Ah, Naruto-kun. Glad you could join us on such short notice. Sarutobi greeted warmly. Not like I was busy, anyway. Naruto muttered with venom in his tone that made them all wince. I already know about what your so-called sensei did to you, Naruto-kun, and trust me when I say that he will pay dearly for his blatant favoritism. For right now I have some people here that would like to meet you. The old Hokage told him with a smile. Hayato walked up to the boy and knelt down as far as he could, but still towered over the vertically challenged boy. Hello, Naruto-chan. I am Hayato Furinji and this is my granddaughter, Miu. We already know that your sensei abandoned you and have heard the more intimate details of your life and nightmare of a team. Before I say anything else, I must tell you about us. I am your father's uncle, making you my grand-nephew, and Miu-chan here your cousin, and we would like to train you and take you in. He told the boy with a smile. Naruto went numb with shock. He had relatives, family, all this time, but they never came forward. The boy found his voice after a few moments, but lowered his head in sorrow. Didn't you want me? He asked in a small voice that was on the verge of tears, conveying a sadness and sorrow that no child should ever have. Hayato understood why the boy was so upset. It must have been very difficult growing up all alone with the very beast that nearly wiped out the village sealed within him and being hated for it. However, within him, Hayato sensed a strength and will that easily surpassed any that he'd ever felt before. If forged correctly, he would be truly surpass himself someday. For all that the boy has suffered, he remains so strong. Minato and Kushina would be so proud. He thought with a sad smile. It's not that, Naruto-chan. You see, we were told that you had died the night of the sealing, but Saru here informed us that you were alive. There were others who would have taken you in, but something went terribly wrong. Saru, I believe that you should explain this to him. The Ryazanpaku elder told the boy, then the Hokage. Naruto-kun, the reason that no one took you in was because the council and another who wished to take up this office announced that you were dead and in your place, left the Kyuubi which is sealed within you safely. The council wanted you dead, but I managed to the details of your true birth were covered up, you would be spared. I truly regret that decision, because you parents had very good friends that would have taken you in without a second thought. Due to this, 2 of them left the village and the rest closed themselves away. The rest that did know and remained were forced to remain silent. Your parents also had 2 betrothal contracts for you to the daughters of 2 very prestigious clans, the Hyuga and the Lee clans. I will personally inform these people after we are done here, but for now, we will focus on your training. This man here is Jiraiya of the Sannin, who will oversee your ninjutsu training and introduce you to the sealing arts. He indicated to the tall, white-haired man. Jiraiya's eyes lit up as the cue to introduce himself came up. My name is one that can hush a crying child, make ladies quiver in delight and my enemies tremble with fear. I am the holy sage of Mount Myoboku. I am Master Jiraiya, he announced while doing a weird kabuki dance, one that made Naruto snigger, then laugh out loud. Ha ha ha, that was a good one. I'm gonna like this guy. He laughed wholeheartedly. Sarutobi pinched his nose. Jiraiya, you're still doing that strange introduction. No matter. I believe that you should tell the boy who you really are. He deserves to know. Jiraiya's mirth and playfulness faded into a grim smile. Naruto, I'm your godfather. He choked out. It was hard to say it. After all, what could you possibly say to a child you were entrusted with, but never got to meet in person? What? I'm your godfather, kid. In fact, I was the one who named you. I know that nothing can make up for years that I missed, but I would like to train you as well, and pass down some things that I taught to your father that made him famous, along with a couple of birthrights that rightfully belong to you. Jiraiya told his godson. So, if you're my godfather, you knew my parents. Yes, I knew them. However, I can't tell you about them now. Maybe later on over a bowl of ramen. Jiraiya told him. Why not now? Because we don't know who else could be listening. If the wrong people found out before we were ready, it will bring some real trouble. But believe this, if you make Chunin, I'll tell you everything you want to know. He bargained with the boy. Naruto's face lit up with a dazzling smile filled to the brim with determination. Alright, just you wait Kyufu. I'll make Chunin for sure. He announced cheerfully, his bright spirit showing through once again. Jiraiya smiled widely and proudly. He was happy that his godson acknowledged him and proud of the spirit that he was showing. Just like his mother. A real handful, but he has his father's drive and determination. An otherwise perfect blend of his parents. Wait, something's wrong here. His chakra flow seems messed up somehow. Naruto, could you channel some chakra through your seal? I need to see something. He told the boy seriously. Naruto looked at Miu cautiously, but Hayato put his fears to rest. She already knows about the Kyuubi, Naruto-chan. He reassured the boy, with Miu giving him a warm smile. I do, Naruto-kun. I know that it must take a lot of heart to keep it at bay and I'm proud of you for that. She told him softly. Naruto felt much more at ease and did as he was asked, lifting his shirt and jacket to expose his seal. Jiraiya inspected the seal closely and found the abnormality. Gogyo Fuin. The only people who know that spell are myself, Sensei and Orochimaru. That bastard, he growled. Fooling around with a Jinchuriki seal without knowing what you're doing was very dangerous and foolhardy. He could have easily released the beast and killed them all. He closed his eyes and concentrated, igniting his fingertips with chakra. Gogyo Fuin, Kai. Jiraiya thrust his fingers into the seal, releasing the spell Orochimaru had on him and freeing up his chakra control. The force of the thrust threw Naruto's small frame back until his new cousin appeared behind him and caught him. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? Mew asked with no small amount of concern. Why yeah, thanks, Mew-chan. He thanked her as he walked over toward Jiraiya again. What was that? Was it what that snake freak did to me? He asked Sarutobi, who nodded. Yes. One of my other students, Orochimaru, did that to you. I know that I told Kakashi about that, but it seems as though he ignored it for the Uchiha. He will have much to answer for when I see him next. The old Hokage growled, letting out a sharp burst of ki to no one in particular. However, the fact that you defeated the Inuzuka heir with that extra burden on you has proven how much you have grown in strength. I estimate that the seal reduced you down to maybe 30% of your maximum strength at best. I'm very proud of you, and if you keep this up, making Chunin this time around will not be beyond you. The other Kajin daimyos knew about what happened to you and were very impressed with what you could do. Sarutobi informed the boy with a proud grin. Naruto flushed with embarrassment. Maybe Sakura-chan will forget that Tem and let me take her out on a date if I make Chunin. Yeah, he cheered. Sarutobi shook his head. Jiraiya, Hayato and Mew all wondered what that was about and asked him. Sakura Haruno is his teammate and the girl he has a crush on. Unfortunately, she is an Uchiha fangirl, quite a fanatical one at that. Every interaction with her has led to the boy getting punched around and insulted. He truly does have feelings for the girl, but she all but tramples on them. He told them sadly. Hayato sighed. Mew clenched her fists in anger, causing her knuckles to pop loudly. If she does that to him again, that girl will pay dearly. Mew stated with barely maintained calm. Jiraiya was reminded of himself back when he was younger when he chased after Tsunade. He really did have feelings for her and still does, but she would never return them. It made his heart ache for the boy, how he had grown up not knowing what love was and was confusing this girl's beatings for affection. Sarutobi had just the cure for this, however. Naruto-kun, if you remember, I told you that your parents had marriage contracts out for you to two clans. If you would like, we could go and meet with them. But what about Sakura-chan? Naruto, in all seriousness, has she even shown you any kindness? Any at all? He asked the boy, whose face fell. He didn't want to shatter the boy's hopes like that, but it had to be done to open his eyes to something far better. One of the girls who is betrothed to him he knows has had a crush on him for a long time now and would treat him right. No, Gigi, but maybe after I make Chunin, she'll. He tried to argue but knew he was beat. So, she really hates me? He asked sadly. I'm sorry to say that as long as Uchiha Sasuke is around, she will never see the wonderful person she's had under her nose this whole time. Naruto's face fell in disappointment, but remembered the girls mentioned. Hey, Gigi, can I meet them? He asked hopefully. Sarutobi smiled. Of course you can. We can all go. Hayato has agreed to become your legal guardian, being your only blood relative remaining of age to do so. You also have others to meet. Cool. Let's get going then, he chirped as they got underway. The party arrived at the hospital in record time, with Jiraiya and Sarutobi using the Shunshin to teleport there and Mew and Naruto traveling via piggyback on Hayato. Mew slid off of his massive back and helped Naruto get down, who was dazed but was grinning. That was fun. Let's do that again sometime. He cheered. Hayato laughed heartily at his nephew's spirit. Okay, maybe later. He whispered conspiratorially to the boy. The party walked into the hospital with Naruto in the lead, only for him to be stopped by one of the doctors. What are you doing here? He sneered at the boy until he saw the Hokage and his guests behind the boy, all of them glaring at him. Never mind. He stuttered as he sped away to go and check his pants. Sarutobi calmly walked up to the desk. Could you please tell us which room Hinata Hyuga is in? He asked politely. Hi Hinata. She's one of the girls. He exclaimed. Yes, she is. Is there something wrong? Naruto blushed slightly. No. It's just that. She was a classmate and well, whenever she came near me she always turned away real quick. Then, at the Chunin exams, she gave me this bottle of salve that Kurenai-sensei said Hinata made herself for me. I just don't get it. Hey, this girl has a crush on him and he doesn't even know it. You lucky boy, Jiraiya thought. Sounds like this girl has a thing for you, kiddo. If she's anything like her mother, she'll be a real beauty when she's older. Jiraiya ribbed his godson. In room 322 in the West Wing, Hokage-sama. The duty nurse answered. Let's go. He motioned to the party in tow as they moved to the room in question. Upon reaching the room, they noticed that there were people already there, with some light crying going on inside. They entered the room to find Hinata clutching her father while crying and he was trying to console her as best he could. Hiyashi noticed the room's new occupants. Oh, Hokage-sama, Fuenji-sama. How may we help you? The Hyuga head greeted them gracefully. Whatever could be the matter with young Hinata? Does this have to do with her match in the Chunin exams? Sarutobi asked. Well, yes. The Elder Council has seen fit to remove Hinata from the main house and to brand her with a caged bird seal due to how she lost to Neji. On top of that, they want to marry her off to the Prince of Kuma no Kuni. The problem with that is that he's almost my age. I just wish there was something we could do. Hiyashi told him sadly. Sarutobi just gave him a grin as he told the Hyuga head and girl what had just been revealed to Naruto. Needless to say, the shy girl fainted and Hiyashi got a huge grin on his face. This is the answer to her problem. His son lives. I must tell Tenman. He will be thrilled. Hiyashi exclaimed in unrestrained joy. Naruto, my boy, you have just saved Hinata from a horrible fate. I cannot thank you enough. He told the confused boy as he hugged his future son-in-law. I was just told about this a few minutes ago. I really liked Sakura-chan, but Gigi helped me see something and I'd like to give this a try, he told the Hyuga patriarch honestly. He really is your son, Minato, Kushina. Hiyashi thought happily. We will be informing Tenman next, Hiyashi. Tsunade will be contacted and dragged back here if we have to. Now, I believe we have a certain future bride to awaken. Hayato told them while giving a sly grin. After a few moments, they managed to bring Hinata back around. Father. What happened? Hokage-sama came in and said that Naruto-kun was engaged to me. She said in a daze. It wasn't a dream, my daughter. You see, a very good friend of mine and I decided to engage the two of you. We felt that since we got along so well, you two would as well. I thought that he died along with his father on that fateful day, but Naruto lives. It seems that we don't have to worry, since it seems that you are quite taken with the boy on your own. Hiyashi chuckled, while the girl's face blushed bright red. Hey, Hinata-chan. How are you feeling? He asked her with concern. I'm fine, Naruto-kun. She replied as the two began to talk. The adults watched the way the two children interacted with a smile. There was a lot of blushing and nervousness, but they seemed to be getting more and more comfortable with each other with each passing minute. Unfortunately, the time to leave arose. Naruto-chan, we have to be going now. You can come by and see her later if you wish. Hayato told the boy as they prepared to go. Naruto sighed. Well, I'd better be going now, Hinata-chan. I'll see you again soon. He told her cheerfully. However, as he rose from the bedside, Hinata did the last thing anyone would expect from her. She pulled him back and kissed his cheek. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. She told him shyly as he was dragged from the room in a near catatonic state by his godfather and grand-uncle. As soon as he left the building, Hinata let out an ear-splitting squeal before passing out again, a huge smile on her face. Hiyashi sighed and chuckled as he went over his next move to make now that he can actually help his daughter. Now, I can finally fulfill my pledge to you, Minato, my old friend. I know that your son will make my Hinata very happy and treat her well. All that's left to do is deal with the council. Hiyashi thought as he began to formulate a plan to deal with the meddling council of the Hyuga. Li family compound. Another wild ride across the village saw them in front of the Lee family compound. It was a large, spacious chunk of land that had a main manor house with large gardens and an equally large training ground attached to it. It had very traditional stylings to it, that meaning it had tatami in nearly all of the rooms save the kitchen and a spacious open-air bath. Naruto was floored by how big the place was. Wow! This house is bigger than my whole apartment complex. He exclaimed in awe. The two guardsmen at the gates chuckled at his statement as Sarutobi walked up to the gates. "Ah, Hokage-sama, how may we help you?" one guard asked politely. "Yes, the Furinjis, Jiraiya, this boy and myself have some business with the master of the house. Is Tenman in by any chance?" the old Hokage asked. The other guard was floored by how many important people were at their gates this day. "Ah, yes. He just returned a few moments ago, Hokage-sama. I shall guide you all in." The guard replied respectfully as he opened the gate and let them inside. The inside of the mansion had Naruto gaping at every turn. It was expected since Naruto lived a very humble lifestyle, if one could call living in a pest-infested, run-down apartment in the red light district humble. It really drove home just how much he never had, but the money didn't really matter to him. He just wanted a family, plain and simple. Finally, they came to a large study where they all came to a halt. "This is Tenman-sama's study. I shall leave you all now and have a good day." The guard bowed as he went back to his duties. Sarutobi and Hayato took the lead as they walked into the study. Lead Tenman wasn't terribly tall, but not short either. He looked to be the same age as Hinata's father, but had very defined muscle that was noticeable under his tunic. The man noticed them and called out. "Ah, Hiruzen, Hayato and Jiraiya, what could bring you all to my home?" he asked merrily until his eyes fell in on Naruto. He couldn't be, could he? He asked until Sarutobi and Hayato filled him in on what had happened, then his grin threatened to split his face in two. He snatched the boy up into a powerful hug that made Naruto's back pop in several places. Holy crap, this old guy is really strong, he thought as he started turning blue. Tenman put him down and let him get some air. "I was told that you were dead. That council will have much to answer for," he growled until his smile returned. "I assume you want to know my position on the betrothal contract?" he asked, to which Hayato and Jiraiya nodded. "Well, I am happy to say that I intend to throw my full support into it. Allow me to call Reichi in here," he told them as he called for his daughter. After a few moments, the door opened to reveal a girl just a bit older than Naruto and a bit taller with blue eyes, with her long blonde hair done up in twin pigtails and cute freckles. She was dressed in a white sundress and sandals when she walked in. Naruto's jaw dropped when she smiled at him as she walked by. She walked up to her father. "Yes, father. You called for me?" she asked. "Ah yes," he began as he told her of the marriage contract with the son of a good friend of his. She looked unsure of what her father was telling her until he pointed out that the young man she passed was the one who would be her husband. "Really? Thank you, father," she squealed happily as she hugged Naruto tightly, making him blush an atomic red. This was another very pretty girl that was to marry him. Not Sasuke or anyone else, but him. This was turning out to be the best day of his life. Naruto nearly melted on the spot as she came closer. "This is the greatest day of my life," he muttered as he fainted. Reichi was having the finer points of the betrothal explained to her, as well as Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki. She was shocked at first when she heard that he had the demon that nearly destroyed Konoha sealed within him, but she reasoned that he was the jailer of the beast and a hero for how he continues to suffer to keep them all safe. The blonde girl knew that something was off with how everyone treated him, but the truth blew her away. Back to the subject of the betrothal, she didn't seem to mind that she was sharing him with Hinata. In fact, she couldn't have been happier. She had known Hinata since she was a toddler and they had been good friends ever since. She had been in the class just ahead of hers and knew of Naruto as well. She admitted that he was a clown, but still thought that he was kind of cute and really nice. She also heard that he was taking his shinobi training very seriously. Now, she heard of his victory against the Inuzuka heir with most of his chakra sealed and came to be very impressed with him. Reichi was by no means an Uchiha fangirl. In fact, she had a strong dislike for the brooding boy and his clan in general. They had constantly tried to steal secrets from her family's martial arts styles through shady arranged marriages and outright theft via Sharingan. She was originally requested by the Uchiha to wed Sasuke to further tap into their powerful fighting styles, but her father refused them outright. Then, she met the class clown and developed a semi-crush on the blonde ball of energy, but his attention seemed to be held by a rabid Uchiha fangirl, Haruno Sakura. She frowned and growled at the treatment the kind-hearted boy received from the pink-haired banshee, but since she was a genin already, she couldn't really see him all that much, and even then, he was near impossible to track down. Naruto was being revived by Mew when Hayato shouldered the boy. "Well, I believe it is time to go. Thank you, Tenman, for your hospitality," the massive old man called out as the troop left the manor grounds. When they were gone, Reichi sighed loudly, face resting in her palms as she watched them leave from the window of the study. Tenman couldn't help but notice her longing sigh. "Is there something the matter, dear?" he asked her. A content grin spread across her face. She explained to him that she knew him from the academy and she already liked him somewhat. She was glad that he turned out to be the one she is betrothed to and that he seemed to like her, too. Tenman couldn't have been happier with that answer. "Minato, my old friend. Our children will be very happy together, I just know it," he thought to himself as he went back to his paperwork. His peace didn't last too long, as his door flew open again. "Uncle Tenman, a youthful good day to you," the intruder nearly yelled. "Ah, Lee, why must you always do that?" Tenman sighed. It was his third door that month the boy broke. "Damn, doesn't anything slow this boy down?" the Lee family head thought as he rubbed his temples. Tenman's sister, Mei Lin, had met a man from the Maida family and fell in love with him. That man was the elder brother of Guy, Maida Han. Soon, they were blessed with a healthy boy they named Lee. Lee would have been just too damn odd, but luckily Mei took on the Maida name. When Lee and Reichi were only a year old, the Kyuubi attacked and killed Lee's parents and Tenman's wife. Lee's care would have gone to his father's brother, but he was only 14 at the time and a chunin. Tenman took the boy in until Guy was stable enough to care for him. After Lee graduated from the academy, his care went over to Guy, who was also his Junin sensei, but the boy still came over to say hello to his uncle and cousin every now and then. Ryozanpaku compound. The group all arrived at the compound just after sundown. "Well, it's a little late to be training, so we will get started in the morning," Hayato told his new nephew. "I will have movers come to Naruto's apartment and box things up to have them moved here." Sarutobi informed them, to which the elder nodded. Sarutobi and Jiraiya both flickered away for the evening and left the boy to his family. "Whoa, I'm gonna be living here?" Naruto asked in disbelief. "Well, yes. I did take over guardianship of you, and what better way to train you than if you actually live with us from now on. Now, on to meet the others," Hayato told the boy as he pushed open the ridiculously huge gate with only a finger, making the boy's eyes bulge in awe. "Wow, that was awesome, Ojii-san. You didn't even use chakra," he exclaimed excitedly. Hayato had the decency to blush slightly as Mew sighed, knowing that he was showing off a bit for his recently found nephew-grandson. "Well, Naruto-chan, with our training, you will be able to do the same over time. We just need to build up your body through dedicated training," Hayato proclaimed with a fist aloft and a weird light in his eyes. Naruto was just so excited that he didn't really think about what that harsh training would include, so he just agreed with his new family and followed them to the dining room. They had stopped by Ichiraku's and picked up several bowls of ramen to go for dinner that night. Naruto offered to help set everything up for when the masters arrived, to which Mew accepted with a pat on his head. She was just as excited about this as he was. She had practically gained a little brother to talk with and have around to help. After a few minutes of waiting, a small throng of people filed into the small dining room. The first thing they all noticed was a short blonde boy that was sitting next to Mew. The largest with a scar across his face spoke up first. "Oi, who's the new brat?" he asked Hayato. "This is Uzumaki Naruto and he will be staying here for a while. His sensei abandoned him for the last Uchiha. He has to face that Hyuga kid, the supposed prodigy, and the way he is now, he doesn't stand a chance," Hayato explained as he turned to Naruto. "Naruto-chan, from the right, we have Kuetsuji Akisame, an artisan and jujitsu expert," he said, indicating a tall man with a mousy mustache with a gi and hakama pants. "He looks kinda strict, like a lot of the academy instructors." Next, we have our karate user and self-proclaimed 100th Dan brawler, Shio Sakari. He said again, this time pointing to the large man with muscles the size of his head and the scar on his face. Whoa, this guy's huge. I wanna get big like him and Ji-san. Now, we have Ma Kensai, master of all forms of Kenpo and Kung Fu. The elder explained, indicating a rather short middle-aged man in black Chinese-style clothes and a black hat with a bushy mustache. What the hell is Kenpo? Moving on, this man here is a Pachai Hopachai, master of Muay Thai and known as the Shinigami. The old man told Naruto, pointing to a bronze-skinned giant that waved at him with a large grin. He seems friendly enough. Finally, the last is Kosuke Shiger. Where did she go? He asked the rest of the masters. Akisame sighed. I bet she's on the roof again. Should I get her? No. I need to speak with her about something of grave importance, you all as well. But for now, we eat. Hayato announced as they all dug into their ramen. After dinner, Naruto helped Mew with the dishes and cleaning up. Well, I gotta do something to help, Mew-ni-chan. He explained. The blonde girl was touched by the fact that he felt comfortable enough around her to call her his Nei-chan and by the fact that he was so helpful. After the cleanup was finished, she showed him to his new room and bade him good night. As Naruto felt sleep coming on, he felt safe there, like no one would come to harm him in his sleep like they would have in his old apartment. After a few more minutes, he finally let sleep take him, smiling all the while. Mew sat watching him with a soft smile from his window sill. Good night, Ototo-kun. Sweet dreams, she whispered as she slipped off to her own room. Meanwhile, down in the dojo area, Hayato called all of the sensei together for a meeting. He even got the reclusive Shiger to show herself. Now that you are all here, I have something of grave importance to tell you all. This concerns that young boy I brought in this evening and who he really is. Oh yeah, Naruto something. Uzumaki. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto, that was his name. Kensai called out. Shiger froze at the mention of the name. Uzumaki? She asked in a whispering, quivering voice. Hayato knew that she would recognize the name. Yes, Shiger. His name is Naruto Uzumaki. He is my grand-nephew whom I thought was lost the night he was born, October 10th. He told them all, letting the fact sink in before he continued. W was his mother's name. Kushina. The weapons woman asked quietly. Yes. His father was Minato Namikaze, my nephew and the Yondaime Hokage. The elder explained to the senseis as he told them of Naruto's life up to this point. The gentle giant Apachai was beginning to scowl, Kensai's face fell, Akisame showed a look of sadness, Sakari trembled in anger, but Shiger had the strangest reaction of all. The emotionless woman actually burst into tears as she realized just who Naruto really was. This really freaked out the other masters, who had never seen her show any emotion other than complete apathy. I thought he was dead. She repeated until she calmed herself. Why? Why did they lie to me? Why would the council want me to think my Otudo was dead? She asked in a deadly tone as she reached for her katana, the Akabantu. Shiger, calm yourself. Slaughtering the council will not help him, nor would Kushina or Minato want you to. What has happened has happened. The most we can do is honor Minato's final wish, since it seems the rest of the village has all but spit upon it. Hayato told her forcefully, managing to get her to control herself. Shiger felt that she had lost her will to go on once she had been informed from the council that her foster family had all died that night. That night Kosuke Shiger had died and left an emotionally barren woman in her place. She had all but killed her emotions and became one of the finest Anbu to ever grace their ranks. Even the vaunted Uchiha Itachi could not defeat her, and Hitaki Kakashi couldn't even touch her. A year ago, she decided to retire from the Anbu ranks and lay low for a while, taking up the occasional mission to keep her skills up. Through it all, she was still suffering from the loss of the propel she had come to see and love as her family. Now, she finds that she had been lied to all of this time. The one that would have been her little brother still lived, but he was used as the council's scapegoat for the Kyuubi attack. The boy she longed to know and love as her own had been subjected to so much hatred and evil, yet he remained strong through it all. After Hayato finished explaining who he was as a person, she couldn't help but feel pride well up within her. He really was just like the woman that she saw as her mother. I want to see him. Please, let me see him. Shiger pleaded with the elder. It's late, Shiger. He's had a long day and an even longer one tomorrow. He still doesn't know just who his parents were, but if he manages to get promoted to Chunin from these exams, Jiraiya will tell him everything. Until then, we have to keep this knowledge under wraps. It that understood. He requested of them all, to which they agreed. Akisame and Kensai were both disgusted by what the village's council had done to an innocent boy while practically worshipping the Uchiha, who had done nothing but lie and steal from their comrades while wanting more. They had basically committed treason, but had managed to worm their way out of punishment for their heinous crimes. At least the Uchiha paid for their crimes when they attempted to go too far, but the last Uchiha left was slowly proving to be just as bad, if not worse. Apachai loved children and despite his size, he was very gentle with them. He also abhorred the abuse of children and Naruto's treatment was the worst he'd ever heard of. He didn't want to believe it, but he knew that the elder wouldn't lie to them, especially about something so serious. Sakari may look rough, but inside he was a big softie. He liked being around kids too, and anyone who abused them earned a death sentence in his book. All of the sensei went to bed for the night with one thing on their minds. This boy has a strong heart. We have faith that he will survive the training. Shiger leapt into the window of her adopted little brother's room silently and crept over to his bed. She took it. It was barely 4 in the morning when Naruto received a tap on his shoulder. Mew Ni-chan, that you? He asked sleepily as he faced the person who did the tapping, only to find the wiry mustache man from the night before was in his face. Get up, was Akisame's command, light seemingly coming from his eyes making him think it was a genjutsu. Ah, what the hell? Naruto exclaimed, grabbing his clock to check the time as it was still dark. 4 in the morning. What did you wake me for? He yelled. Because, it's morning, was the mustached man's simple reply, pointing to his window. Naruto looked outside of his window to see a crudely drawn picture of a sunrise with a few cows in the distance, held up by a pair of bandaged bronze hands. Naruto looked down at the holder of the picture who smiled back up at him. Apachai-san, the short blonde exclaimed. Appa, Ohio, Naruto-chan, now you can play with Apachai. The Muay Thai master cheered merrily as he hopped down from his perch. What kind of nuthouse did I wind up in? He thought incredulously as he was hurried through the process of getting ready for his first day of training. As he reached for his signature jumpsuit, Akisame's hand stopped him. No, you won't be wearing that eyesore anymore. Here, put this on, the mustached man told him, handing him a dojo gi. The gi was a simple white and came with white pants that were tied off with a white belt. They were actually a much better fit for him than his jumpsuit, which was baggy on him and way too big for his slight frame. To be brutally honest, he never liked wearing it in the first place, but it was all he could afford. The jujitsu master took in his new student's body type and build with a frown. There were telltale signs of malnutrition and many near-healed scars on his body that he believed Naruto wore the jumpsuit to cover up. It was a miracle that Naruto had such supple muscle mass for his thin frame. The potential is there. Let's test him out, he reasoned as he brought Naruto down to the dojo. On the way down, he was instructed to make several kage bunshin and send them to the Hokage's office, where they would meet with Jiraiya for ninjutsu and control training. The boy did as he was told, creating 20 clones. Alright, you guys heard the man. Get on over to the old man's office and see Kyufu. And no stopping for ramen, either. He ordered the clones, who all rogered up in unison before taking off in a mini stampede. Upon reaching the dojo, he saw the rest of the sensei sitting off to the side, with his granduncle with them and his cousin in a gi top and spandex shorts standing in the middle. What's going on, Nei-chan? He asked them confused. Shiger had a lot of trouble controlling herself from telling Naruto everything and snatching him up, but she kept herself in check. This will only help him and make him stronger. I will help you get stronger, Ototo-kun. This much I promise you. She swore to herself. Hayato cleared his throat to get things started. Naruto, this is to determine where you stand as of right now and what we should teach you. Mew will be your opponent. Do not be afraid to attacking her, but be prepared to fight as if your life depended on it. The elder told him seriously as he signaled the beginning of the match. Wah, was all he had time to say before Mew launched herself at him with blinding speed. Naruto hastily dodged her opening blow, which was a roundhouse kick to his head but left himself open for her follow-up. She caught him full in the face with a full knuckle punch and launched him back into the dojo wall. He recovered in mid-flight, stopping himself with the wall and using that to launch back into the fight. Naruto was quick and had decent raw power, no doubts about that, but he had no style at all, more like he was fighting on instinct alone. That was a fatal flaw that his sensei should have spotted and corrected, but either failed to do so, or completely ignored the problem. However, since he had no set style or discipline, he was essentially a blank slate to work with. That would make teaching him anything new that much easier to do, along with his natural curiosity and tenacity. All that, added together with his jaw-dropping stamina and his borderline regenerative healing and recovery, he was the perfect student for their extreme teaching style, meaning he'd have a good chance of actually surviving the training. The senseis were nearly drooling at that aspect and thinking maybe that dumb fox was actually useful for once in the boy's life. Back to the fight, Naruto was getting smacked around quite soundly by the much faster and more skilled Miu. The blonde girl didn't really give him much breathing room to set up many counters, and the ones he did get off were wild and ineffective. She got the same vibe as the senseis about Naruto's training, or lack thereof. It's like his training was completely neglected. The way he punches and kicks are all wrong. His balance is way off and he flounders for what to do next. However, his reflexes are lightning fast and his attacks pack a wallop when they are performed properly, not to mention the fact that he's naturally extremely agile and flexible, kind of like me. He has a lot of work ahead of him, but I have faith in him. He is a member of my family, after all, she thought with a sigh. The fight rolled on for another few minutes until Naruto dodged a punch and found an opening. Not wanting to waste it, he reached out to grapple with her, only to get a handful of her in his hands. She stopped immediately, as did he. But before she could even move or think, Naruto leapt away to the opposite side of the dojo like he had been burned and began to sputter out apologies profusely. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I won't ever touch you again, I swear. Don't hit me, Sakura-chan. He cried out in habit. The usual course of action was that during the sparring sessions he was paired with Sakura. Every time he managed to get in a clean hit, she got really angry and beat him severely, calling him a filthy pervert for touching her. She did it so much that it became a conditioned reaction to accidentally touching almost any female. Miu was at a total loss as to what happened. She wasn't going to hit him for that since this was a sparring session and contact was expected, even if what he did was a complete accident. From what she could gather, this was a conditioned reaction, and from the name he blurted out, she knew who was responsible for doing such damage to his already fragile psyche. As she tried to get close to him and ask what was wrong, he scurried away from her in fear. Miu clenched her fists in rage, and it was taking all of her self-control for going out and tracking the pink-haired bully down and making her pay dearly for nearly mentally and emotionally crippling one of the only two remaining members of her family that she had left. Swooping in quickly, she snatched the shorter blonde into a tight embrace as she rocked him gently. Naruto tried to wriggle free and fight it, but Miu held firm. Shish. It's okay, Naruto-kun. I'm not angry with you, so just try to settle down. It was only an accident. The young woman soothed the boy as he stopped struggling and got himself back to normal. As he calmed himself, she gently let him go, Naruto standing up slowly. Thanks, Oni-chan. I needed that. He sniffled lightly as he thanked her. It was no problem, Naruto-kun. You're my family and a family always helps each other. Miu told him with a radiant smile. Family. I like this. Having a family, he thought as he was brought out of his musings by the concerned gazes of the masters. The sensei were all crowded around him, pondering what to do with him. Naruto instinctually averted his gaze from them, ashamed for how poorly he performed. He knew that Miu could have taken him down in only a few moves, but he knew that she was dragging it out. However, he thought that she was just toying with him, like Sasuke and Kakashi always did in their spars. Screwing his eyes shut, he braced himself for either the laughter at his expense or the long chewing session that sometimes followed his spars with his team, from all three teammates. I think I know how to fix this. One of the senseis, Kensai, spoke up. Naruto-chan, please follow me. The short Kenpo master asked of him. Stunned, Naruto got up to follow. Once outside, Kensai leaned in close to him. So, how was it? The short man asked his equally short new pupil. How was what? Naruto asked, totally confused. Mu-chans. Were they soft? The short man asked in a pervy giggle as he pulled out an agonizingly familiar orange book. Wah. Hey. That's the same pervy book Kakashi always reads. Besides, I don't see Mu-chan that way, Ero-sensei. Naruto declared, pointing his finger at the short man. I may be a pervert, Naruto-chan, but at least I got you back to your old self again. Kensai told the fuming boy with a grin. This kid's going to be a blast to tease. The boy was stunned, to say the least. This guy went out of his way to help him and was even willing to be branded as a pervert to do so. I think I'm gonna like it here after all. Gee, thanks. I guess. Naruto mumbled quietly, kicking a pebble that was at his feet sheepishly. Don't worry, Gaki. How you reacted ain't your fault. Those bastards out there in the village did some real messed up shit to you, but we're gonna help you undo it every step of the way. But, Sakari stated as he and the other sensei walked out from the house. Shigure was careful to control herself, but inside she was screaming for the blood of a certain pink-haired girl. Akisame finished for him. They always say, you have to suffer for the cure, Naruto-kun. He told Naruto, the rest of the sensei sporting grins that were borderline sadistic that were making Naruto gulp loudly. Mew knew what that look meant and sent up a small prayer for him. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the village, one will find a small waterfall that feeds a stream to the north of the village near Hokage Mountain. It is here that we find the small horde that Naruto conjured up earlier that morning working on a chakra control exercise with Jiraiya. Come on, kid, I know you can do this. Just concentrate. The white-haired Sannin coached. After around a few more minutes of trying, Naruto's clones were getting the hang of the exercise. Hey, Kyufu, we're doing it. The clones whooped in glee as they danced on top of the water's surface. Jiraiya looked on with a smirk. That kid's got some crazy stamina, making all these shadow clones along with doing all that physical training with those Ryazanpaku guys. He'll really be something when he's grown. Minato, Kushina, you've got one amazing kid. The Sannin chuckled to himself as he called the clones over to himself. Hey kid, come over here and I'll show you another cool trick. He shouted out to the clones whose faces all lit up at the thought of learning something new. The clones nearly stampeded their way over to their godfather. Oh boy, what's next? One clone exclaimed. He had to hand it to the kid, he had a hell of a learning curve if shown properly and patiently, along with the fact that he took to everything he was taught with fascination and wonder, just his father and even himself when they were Naruto's age. Okay, kiddo, step back and watch this. He announced as he began to concentrate and spin chakra in his right hand until it looked like a mini cyclone. Once it was ready, Jiraiya thrust the spinning orb of chakra into a large boulder, the orb eating its way through the tough rock like choji at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Rasengan. The clones all went slack-jawed with awe. One clone found its voice to voice their opinion of what they just bore witness to. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. He cheered, the rest of the clones following suit. The Sannin was glad that it drew such a reaction from his godson, hoping to impress him somehow. Alright kid, calm down, now. That was the Rasengan, a jutsu created by the fourth Hokage himself. All it is chakra shaping and manipulation, no hand seals to use, so that Uchiha Kid or Kakashi can't copy it. I know that Kakashi tried to use the same principle for his Reikiri, but he still needs hand seals, makes too much noise and takes too long to generate. He told the clones as he started to pass out water balloons to them. What are these for? One of them asked. That it for learning the first step of the Rasengan, rotation. You need to be able to spin the chakra in various directions, like a cyclone. Do this and burst the balloon to complete the first exercise. He told the clones as he went to the shade of a tree to stretch out, leaving the clones to pick the exercise apart and figure it out on their own. Occasionally, he'd hear one or more of the clones curse loudly as they kept at it. Finally, after 2 hours, he heard the clones begin to make a ruckus. Hot damn, I did it. Show us how. Come on, show us. Jiraiya opened up a bleary eye to see that the clones had indeed cracked the first stage, shredding the balloons and spreading the water inside. With a groan, the 50-year-old stood up to his full height and ambled over to the cheering clones. He looked up at the sky to see that they were losing daylight fast, deciding that it was time to call it a day. "Oi, kid, come over here for a minute." "What's up, Kyufu?" a clone asked. "It's time to call it quits for the day, kid. Go ahead and dispel yourselves a few at a time," he instructed as the clones nodded and obeyed, poofing away in groups of 4 at a time. After the last of the clones disappeared, the Toad Sage allowed himself a smirk. "Damn, that kid burned right through the first stage of the Rasengan training in a few hours. He's already hot on Minato's heels, even if that idiot Hitaki didn't train him right. The kid's a natural just like Minato, but he's got spirit like Kushina. It's almost like they're still here," he mused to himself as he resigned himself to the nearest bar before he headed out to the hot springs for his research. "Heh, research, here I come." The great pervert giggled as he went on his merry way with an extra spring in his step. Back at Ryuzanpaku, inside the dojo of the compound, Naruto lay in a crumpled heap. "Man, this is rough," he wheezed as he shakily stood back up to face his sensei at the moment, Kensai. As he did this, he contemplated the day he'd had so far. Flashback. After he had calmed down from his small episode earlier, the masters began to iron out a training schedule for their newest student the same way they settled all their disputes, by a game of rock, paper, scissors. Through this method, they decided that Akisame would start him off for the first 2 hours. Akisame and Kensai were the only two who had limited time, due to the fact that Kensai ran an acupuncture clinic and his endurance and pain threshold were already tremendous, so he started Naruto out on strength exercises. First, his task was to strengthen Naruto's core body, meaning his abdominal strength. For this, he suspended Naruto upside down over a fire, having him swing back and forth to avoid getting burned while Akisame himself fanned the flames. "How do you like my training, Naruto-kun? I call it the dance of the frying squid," he told his young student serenely. Are you nuts? This hurts like hell," Naruto exclaimed loudly. "Actually Naruto-kun, I am quite sane. This exercise will build up your core strength, enabling you to put much more power behind your attacks and building up on your already impressive chakra and endurance. I assure you that there is a method to our madness, as it were," Akisame instructed as he set Naruto back to work on his exercise. Somehow, his words didn't really do much to assure the vertically challenged blonde. After his first training session was over, it was decided that it was Apachai's turn to train him, or play depending on your point of view. The bronze-skinned giant took this opportunity to introduce his new and first student to the beginnings of Muay Thai, his native fighting style from a small island nation to the southeast of the continent they were on. Apachai slipped into the basic stance. "Appa, Naruto-chan, this is the stance for Muay Thai, Tangard Muay." He instructed the boy as Naruto copied his stance. Since he was right-handed, not left like Apachai, his left leg and fist were in front with his right in back, both hands up in a basic defensive posture. Apachai made small correction here and there until he was satisfied. "Now, do what Apachai do," the tall man chirped as he went through the basic movements and attacks of the style, which seemed oddly natural to the boy. For today, he was introduced to the basic punches of the style, or chalk. From there, Naruto was put in front of a training post to practice for the rest of his time. This guy's not so bad and I'm really getting into this style," Naruto thought as he continued to work. Unfortunately, Apachai was prone to getting bored easily and walked up to the training post next to his new student. "Appa," he shouted as he kicked straight up, sending his log into low orbit. Naruto, who was at ground zero for the training implement's impromptu launch, stood rooted to his spot in both awe and sheer terror. "What the hell is this guy?" he shouted in his mind, his voice and basic motor functions taking a small break and possibly running for their lives at this point. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Fire Country, where our two Tems are currently training. "Sasuke, activate your Sharingan for what I'm about to show you," Kakashi instructed Emo Pants the Great, aka Sasuke. "What for?" he asked with disdain. Kakashi didn't get the chance to answer as a large object was screaming down upon them, landing directly on Kakashi. Sasuke's sweat dropped for a moment. Was that what was supposed to happen? He asked in a bored tone as he inspected the object, which turned out to be a training post, but it was charred from re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Where the hell did this come from? No matter. Hey, Kakashi, get up and give me more jutsu. He told the broken form of his teacher, lightly prodding him with his foot. Back at Ryuzanpaku, Apachai's time was up and the next person took over. This one was more reluctant to train with the boy, stating that he didn't train brats. This naturally put a bee under Naruto's bonnet as he stomped into the living area to fetch his reluctant sensei. Oi, Sakari-sensei. Let's go, he told the massive and scarred man. Go away kid, I don't train brats, he yelled, nearly tossing Naruto back with just the wind from his shout, but the blonde was, if anything, stubborn as a mule. No way, pal, I need you to train me and I ain't going nowhere until you do. Naruto declared as he sat down on the couch in Sakari's room, crossing his arms and jutting his chin in defiance in true Naruto style. Even though he was testing Naruto's legendary stubbornness, he was still impressed with the boy. The mountain of a man started to chuckle lightly. It kept getting a little louder over the next minute, until full-blown laughter erupted from the man. Ha ha, you've got guts, Gaki. I think you and I are gonna get along just fine. He chortled as he stood up, leaving a confused blonde in his wake. Oi, you comin' or what, Gaki? He called out to his student with a grin. After that, the two got started on the basics of Sakari's martial art, karate. Starting where Apachai did with his instruction, he began with the basic katas of the style and had Naruto work on his form, punching and kicking away on the same training post as before. Now, karate is a martial art that is meant to enable an unarmed person to fight an armed person on equal grounds. Most of your strength will be coming from your core body and your hips. Sakari said he had to go get something and had Naruto continue until he returned, but Naruto was so engrossed in what he was doing that he zoned out. Sakari came back with an iron girder and slammed it into the ground next to his student's dummy. Well, I might as well get in some light practice, Gaki. He joked with his student, who stopped punching to gawk at what was about to happen. Chessu. Sakari roared as his fist slammed into the metal, construction item, warping the girder with his first hit and continuing to go to town with a series of blows so rapid, he couldn't even see them until he stopped, leaving the girder distorted beyond all recognition. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. He muttered in awe as his time limit ran out. Next on the list was Shigure. She was especially reluctant about training since her methods were rather rough, but remembered that Kushina trained her in a similar method and Naruto healed like nobody's business. Her first exercise was an accuracy drill with his thrown weapons, with her constantly taking pot shots at him to distract him. OWWW. Hey, watch it. Naruto yelped after a kunai grazed his face. Naruto-kun. This is for your own good. She told him in her usual monotone voice as she flung more sharp and pointy objects at her pseudo little brother. After a target practice session that left Naruto feeling like the target, she pulled out a wooden bakken and threw it to him. Nay, what's this for? He asked, slightly afraid of what the answer might be. His fears were unwarranted, this time, as she began to explain. I wish to teach you how to use a sword. On guard, she told him as she lunged for him with her bakken at blinding speeds. Acting out of desperation, he slashed at her with the training blade, only to miss, letting her get behind him and swat him on his with her training sword, hard. Naruto nearly jumped out of his skin while the pain in his scrawny subsided. Let that be a lesson to you, Naruto-kun, she told him as she began to tutor him about the basic parts of the sword and in the basic movements of the sword, such as the 6 cuts and the 8 different critical hit spots on a person. The last hour was dedicated to these 2 things until we come to our last instructor of the day, Kensai. Nay, Eros-sensei, what style do you use? Naruto asked curiously. To answer that question, Kensai led him over to a small creek that was near the bathhouse. A passerby, a painfully familiar passerby with blonde hair that used to be long and a big mouth **Ino, just happened to be passing by. What's that idiot Naruto doing with that old guy? She wondered as her curiosity got the better of her. Kensai noticed her, but smirked to himself, turning his attention back to Naruto. Well, Naruto-chan, I am known as a master of all forms of kung fu and kenpo. Even the Hyuga Jyuken and the Goken that your friend Lee uses have their origins in my arts, so I can teach you how to fight a Hyuga without getting shut down. Naruto nearly had stars in his eyes. Whoa, that's neat, he exclaimed. If you will allow me, I will demonstrate a technique from one of the styles I shall be teaching you, Hakyukuken. He told the star-struck boy as he calmly walked over to the water's edge and placed a palm just over the water's surface. He took in a deep breath and let it out slowly. Ah! He grunted as the surface of the water seemed to explode around his palm thrust. The most amazing thing about it was that his palm never touched the water. It was the sheer force of the blow that caused the water to seemingly detonate like someone ignited an exploding tag. What the hell was that? That old man's training that doofus Naruto. I gotta ask Forehead about this. She thought as she continued to watch. What the hell was that, Ero-sensei? That was freaking awesome. Naruto cheered. That was just a basic palm thrust, but the purpose of this demonstration was to show you the aim of this art, to achieve maximum effect with minimal watched movement. I think it will help you with your concentration and patience, my boy. The short master told Naruto honestly and seriously. Cool. It doesn't even matter that Kakashi-tem abandoned me anymore. I'm learning way more from you guys in one day than he taught me in months. Naruto cheered. I agree, Naruto-chan. Hitaki was certainly a poor example of a teacher. Abandoning a student is one of the worst sins a sensei can commit against their student. Now come, we have much to cover within the 2 hours we've been allotted. He told his pupil, guiding him inside. Ino, who was watching the whole thing, left quickly to tell Sakura the juicy gossip that she just found. Even if they were rivals, she still traded gossip with her ex-best friend. Flashback end. Naruto was snapped out of his reminiscing about his day when he heard Mew call out that dinner was ready. When the world came back into focus, he found the fist of his sensei millimeters from his face. At the mention of food, Kensai pulled a complete 180 from serious sensei to a chow hound in under a second. Just as Naruto was about to head inside to eat dinner, the clones he had sent with Jiraiya had dispersed, their memories hitting him like one of Sakura's punches. He staggered as the knowledge flowed into him, causing Mew to worry. Naru-chan, are you okay? She asked in worry as she supported the staggering boy. Why yeah, I'm okay, Mew-ni-chan. He told her as he steadied himself to enter the dining hall. Dinner was in and of itself an adventure. He was seated in between the two most notorious food thieves in the house, Kensai and Apachai. No sooner than the food was set before him the two swooped in on his rice bowl. But Naruto had been dealing with the likes of them his whole life, so he leaned back slightly to evade them and nearly gulped down the rice in one fell swoop. Hayato and the rest saw this and were happy that he wasn't the type to let his guard down easily, but knew that the life that he'd lived thus far was responsible for this. That was good rice, Oni-chan. Naruto called out merrily as he held out his bowl for seconds. The other two sensei spared a grin for the foxy-eyed blonde between them. It had been quite a while since their meal times had become fun and even longer since Shiger had actually joined them for supper. Now here she was, sitting amongst them with her pet mouse Tsuchimuru perched atop her shoulder, eating and actually smiling slightly. Hayato knew then and there that having Naruto live with them from now on was a wonderful idea. It was bringing everyone closer together and making them much happier. Mew was smiling much more now since she now had something of a little brother to care for and to dote on. Sakari was a little happier with having the ballsy blonde around, it was like having a nephew for him. Kensai saw much of himself in Naruto's carefree and jolly nature while Apachai was happy to have a playmate again since the nice man in the spandex became too busy to spar with him, having his own students to teach. Now, they were a family. Meanwhile, at the Yamanaka flower shop, Ino had called Sakura over to her family's flower shop to dish out the dirt on what her idiotic teammate was up to this time. What is it, Ino pig? I have better things I could be doing, like winning Sasuke-kun's heart. Sakura told her rival pointedly. Ino scoffed. Yeah right, just keep telling yourself that, forehead. Anyway, I saw something weird today and it revolved around your teammate. What? Quit stalking Sasuke-kun, pig. Sakura screeched. Who said that I was talking about Sasuke-kun? I meant Naruto. Ino amended. Why should I care about that idiot? Ouch. That was a little too harsh, forehead. I don't even treat my teammates like that. Ino thought as she told Sakura everything she overheard. After hearing everything, Sakura just scoffed. So what? That little idiot will just lose to Neji, anyway. I'm not surprised that Kakashi-sensei kicked him to the curb since Sasuke-kun deserved the training more anyway. He'd be better off if Neji just beat him up so badly that he gets kicked off of our team. We never wanted him there, anyway. Ino couldn't believe that his ex-best friend was so heartless. Sakura, how could you be so cruel? Even if Naruto is a little annoying sometimes, he doesn't deserve that from you. She thought. Sakura. I think you should leave now. Ino told her in an even, yet firm tone. Her father instilled into her the fact that every Konoha shinobi is her comrade and deserves that much respect, at least. Naruto had earned his place in the finals and Ino was beginning to see that the dead last wasn't as such anymore, especially with what she heard earlier that day from the strange old man and Naruto himself. Ino's thoughts carried her back to a conversation she had with her father upon the first time she met her fellow blonde. Flashback. A 6-year-old Ino came bounding into the shop that her family owned from the first day of her 4th year at the academy. "Daddy, I'm home," she yelled into the shop. A tall man with a long, sandy blonde ponytail stepped out. "Hello there, princess. How was your first day?" he asked her, his wife, Yuki, stepping up behind him. "It was kinda boring. Iruka-sensei just talked all day long, but we have a new kid in our class," she told them. A new kid? Inoichi's ears perked up at this. "Oh really? What's his name?" "It sounds kind of funny, Uzumaki Naruto," she answered. Her parents both went rigid, then relaxed. "Are you sure, dear?" her mother asked. "Yeah, but the teachers were pretty mean to him. They always sent him out of the classroom and yelled at him, even when he didn't do anything wrong," she told her parents, who were having their own little discussion. She could pick out words like, needless hate, and, poor boy, but couldn't tell what they were talking about. "Ino-chan, you should try to be his friend. He sounds like he needs one pretty badly," Yuki told her daughter. "But, why is everyone so mean to him?" she asked innocently. "I can't tell you that, but please, be nice to him. His life's been hard enough," her father nearly pleaded. Ino had never seen her father like that before. "Oh okay," she agreed. The next few days, she spent watching how he was treated, but got into what the main crowd was thinking, like most children do, and began to mistreat him, as well. Flashback end. Ino was shaken out of her thoughts by Sakura, who was trying to get her attention. "Hey pig, why should I go home? Don't tell me you actually felt sorry for that loser," the pinkett jeered. "Just leave," Ino told her firmly, pointing for the door. "Fine then. I'll just tell Sasuke-kun that you aren't devoted to him anymore, pig," she yelled from down the street. Ino didn't even have the mind to argue back. "Is this what I've become? Some shallow girl that would wish harm on a comrade just because they aren't Sasuke-kun?" she asked herself as she flipped the business sign to closed for the evening. Sakura was stomping down the street in a huff over all that she learned. "That baka, Naruto. Who does he think he is, getting training from someone like that and not Sasuke-kun? I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind." Pinkzilla ranted as she stomped down toward Ryuzanpaku, her blonde target etched firmly in her crosshairs. Good look at him and had to restrain herself from snatching him up into a tight embrace. "He looks like mother and father so much. I'm so sorry. I'll try to make up for all of the years that I've missed," the once emotionless weapons mistress thought sadly as she kissed him lightly on his forehead. She then retreated from his room as quickly and silently as she came. Sakura had stomped her way through town and made a beeline for the place that Ino had described. She did, however, wonder why the people she asked about it thought that she was insane for wanting to actually go there. That's the end of part 1. Naruto has found warmth, but danger is never far behind. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Fox Fanfiction. Comment, Part 2 inches if you want to see how Naruto balances love, loyalty, and rising threats.